Hello, my name is Marty Seibel. I'm a paranormal investigator and a ghost tour guide here in Staunton, Virginia. I'm the founder and director of a paranormal group here in Staunton called Black Raven Paranormal. We've been together about 10 years, since 2005. We're very similar to ghost hunters for the most part. We're very scientific in our approach. We do a lot of local investigations here with haunteds as well as worldwide, really. We love to travel, and we do travel extensively. I'm also the owner of a ghost tour company here in Staunton called Ghost of Staunton Walking Ghost Tours. We are getting ready to go into our 9th season here. It's been a blast. Our tours are based on the history of the city, along with any paranormal experiences and ghostly encounters that people have shared with us over the years. I certainly invite anyone that visits Staunton or lives here locally to come down and check out a tour. They're very informative. We do give you a lot of the history of the town. Some of the locations around here are very interesting. They have long histories that date back as far back as the late 1700s. And one of my favorites, of which we're at right now, is the Staunton Depot Station here. A lot of ghost stories from down here, a lot of history. And at one time, this was actually the hubbub of Staunton, Virginia. We go back to 1854. A railroad was put in here called the Virginia Central Railroad. Ran from here to Richmond, ran westward here to town. Just prior to that coming in, the town was very small. There wasn't much going on here. Really just kind of a hole, if you might say. But once the railroad come into town here, everything changed with Staunton. Staunton all of a sudden became a center of commerce. A lot of businesses moved here. A lot of people moved into the town. And it really began to flourish. And from 1854, it took off. By the time we get to 1860, 1861, the town stands at about 2,400 people here. Of course, there's a lot of fever running rampant at the time in regards to succession. Most people around here, prior to the Civil War, were against succession. There were some slave owners, but they were pretty much against it for the most part. But the state did vote to succeed, and once that happened, all of a sudden, Staunton became really pretty much a strategic location for both sides during the Civil War, North and South. It was of vital importance to the South because of this railroad, a direct link to Richmond, Virginia. So we had a lot going on here in town during the Civil War. We had troops that trained here. We had dead and wounded that come through this station here. We had a lot of POWs that were paraded through town. After all your major military engagements during the Civil War, we had a tremendous flow intake of dead and wounded after battles like Gettysburg and Antietam. So it was really quite an area here. One of the most prominent ghost stories we do talk about does relate to the Civil War, and it involves a soldier named D.C. McClure. He was of the 3rd Arkansas Infantry. He was here in town early 1861. He was training, a very raw recruit, and one of the big problems we had here at Staunton during the Civil War was we had a lot of problems with alcohol. A lot of soldiers like to get drunk, parade around through town, and anytime you got a soldier with a gun that's drunk, and in a time of war, you're going to have some bad things happen. But anyways, apparently this D.C. McClure got a little too intoxicated one night, actually wandered up here on the railroad tracks and was struck by a train. Trains doing what they do. Well, they found D.C. McClure over here, and they found him over here, and they found some of him back there. What they did was they took him up here, and he was actually the first Confederate soldier buried up here in Thorno Cemetery. Shortly after that time, there had been numerous reports of a Civil War Confederate soldier being spotted down here in this area, somewhat matching the description of him. Anything from seeing him, some people would see the soldier as being transparent, as to seeing him as a solid figure. You see him one minute, you turn, you blink your eye, you turn away enough, the next minute he's gone. This actually continues to this day. We get reports of people seeing a Confederate soldier down here. We've actually had a couple of people come on the tour and take some photographs of what we thought was a soldier in a Union uniform, which is interesting. One of the things I do point out about that when people do tell us and share that stuff with us is the fact that very early in the war, both sides did wear blue. So it's quite possible. It could have been a Confederate soldier, could have been a Yankee soldier. We don't know because there were so many people coming through the town here. But one of the things that's reported in regards to what people think is D.C. McClure is they hear someone stumbling along the tracks, kind of whistling, and like I said, he's been seen. Our next story, actually we go to 1890. It involves a young lady named Miss Myrtle Knox. She was 17 years old, and she was part of an opera troupe named the Pearls of Peking, and they were to do a performance here in Staunton. And it's a pretty big event for that time. Opera had never been here to Staunton, and so it's first time coming through here. A lot of residents were very excited about it. They were going to do a one-night performance here, and then they were going to go on to Baltimore. So much, in fact, that they were so excited that there was actually a crowd of about 200 people up here on this platform up here to welcome this opera troupe in. It was actually a Saturday night in late April, and it was about 1 a.m. that the train was due, and it never did arrive. They waited till about 3:30, and then finally it did. They could see it off in the distance, and they were quite worried by this time, but when they saw it rolling in here to town, they were kind of, I guess you could say, horrified, because the train was actually on fire. It looked like a big ball of fire. What had happened, it was already behind schedule, but about several miles outside of town, the brakes gave out, and so it come rolling in through here on these tracks at about 70 to 80 miles an hour. This opera troupe that was on this train was actually on the last car, the sleeper car, and the train amazingly come through here and it stayed on the tracks, except for that last car. That last car derailed and it wiped out this entire station. Demolished it. Car flipped. Several people were thrown out. Luggage all over the place. The people that were up here on the platform were able to scatter and get to safety, and then they come back and they go through the wreckage. And amazingly, they're finding nobody dead, just injuries like a broken arm, cuts, scratches, bruises, and they couldn't do very much to save her. What actually came of this, though, at the time when this happened, there was not a hospital here. We didn't have a local hospital. Incredibly, I don't know how that could be, but we didn't. As a result of this, 6 years later, King's Daughters Hospital was established because of this one incident here. Now, she's one of the most popular stories we have here. She's also one of the most frequently encountered here on this platform. There have been reports people have seen her all the way up to the Depot station, the Depot Grill restaurant up here, as well as this station right here, which used to be the Pullman restaurant. I don't know if you remember when it was a Pullman or not, but we've had numerous accounts of people seeing her. One of the more interesting stories involving her goes back about 12 years ago, when this was used as a Pullman restaurant. The staff was coming in very early one morning to do inventory, and the assistant manager arrived about 5 a.m. in the morning. I think the rest of the group was supposed to meet him about 5:30. But anyways, when he got here, he thought he'd go in and open up, turn the lights on. And as he did, he got up to the front of this building here, and he went to put his key in and open the door. And he heard what sounded like a piano playing. And he thought that very odd, but he didn't really pay it any mind until he went inside. And then when he got inside the building, he could hear the piano a little bit louder and clearer. It was actually coming from within inside the building. So this brave soul actually decides to close the door, lock it back up, and go back and sit in his car until everybody else can come and join him. And he figured, well, we'll go in and check the whole building out, safety in numbers. And that's pretty much what he did. A couple of employees come. They go inside, they search the building from top to bottom. They thought maybe somebody had broken in. They cannot find any signs of entry. It's very interesting to note, too, that at this time they had an old player piano that was back in an old storage room, and it had been, actually had never been known to play. They actually kept a tarp over it and supplies, but if it was playing very well that night. Really freaked him out, and they had numerous things happen over here while it was used as a Pullman restaurant. Anything from candles that were extinguished to relighting, doors that would close and open on their own, and of course numerous sightings of this girl out here on the platform. They describe it as a pale blue dress, not necessarily white, more of a pale blue. Some customers even reported of seeing her someone staring in from outside on the platform while they're eating. Annoyed them, they would complain to management. This went on for a long time. So everybody here was pretty much, they tell you that the place is haunted. Everybody that worked here just insistent. Now we get, and I find it interesting, we get stories from up here to Depot Grill. Pretty much the same thing. Her in a pale blue dress. A lot of people will see her out here just along walking up the platform or down. And I always describe her as being transparent too, which I think is interesting.